My brother's wife accused me of flirting with him. Now my entire family thinks I seduced him on purpose. I'm a 30-year-old woman named Inez, and until last year, I truly believed nothing could break the bond between siblings. Especially not mine with my brother Mehdi. We grew up stuck to each other. Two against the world. He used to walk me home from school when I cried, sneak candy into my backpack when I was sad, and later, when I was broke in university, he was the one slipping money into my bag with a wink and a "just don't tell mom." He got married 3 years ago to a woman I never really connected with. Soraya. She was beautiful and quiet, always perfectly dressed, always polite, but cold. Distant. I knew she didn't like me. She never looked me in the eye. She kept conversations short and dry, like she couldn't wait to escape. But I tried. God, I tried. I smiled. I brought homemade pastries when I visited. I helped them move. I gave her thoughtful birthday gifts. She thanked me with this tight, forced smile like I was a stranger. Still, Mehdi loved me. And I didn't want to make things worse. Then came the summer everything collapsed. My car broke down on a highway exit about an hour outside Paris. I panicked. It was late, I was alone, I didn't know what to do. I called Mehdi. He didn't even hesitate. Said, "Stay put. I'm coming." 20 minutes later, he showed up in joggers and a hoodie, blasting music like it was 2010 again. He made me laugh the whole way back to their place. Soraya was away for work, he said. He offered for me to stay the night. It wasn't weird. I'd slept over before. I took the guest room, as always. At around 2 a.m. I got a text. "You awake?" I replied, "Yeah, kinda. Wanna watch a movie?" I hesitated for a second. But it was Mehdi. My brother. It felt harmless. So I got up. We sat on the couch in the dark, wrapped in a blanket. We talked like old times, about his job, his stress, his doubts. At one point, he stared at me. Just stared. Too long. I shifted and said, "You should sleep. You've got work tomorrow." He smiled. "You're so pretty when you act like the big sister." It made my stomach turn. I didn't respond. I went to bed without another word. Left early the next morning without waking him. I didn't tell anyone, not Clara, my best friend. Not even my therapist. I wanted to believe it was nothing. A weird moment. Nothing more. 3 days later, Soraya called. Her voice was icy. "I know what you did. Don't play innocent. You think I didn't notice how you look at him? You're disgusting." "That's my husband." I stood there frozen. She hung up. Within a week, my entire family turned on me. My mother called, screaming that I was a shame to the family. My father said he didn't want to see me for a while. Mehdi? He didn't answer a single one of my messages. I found out from a cousin that Soraya had gone through Mehdi's phone. She saw our messages. "You awake? Wanna watch a movie?" Completely out of context, but enough for her to twist it. She told everyone I tried to seduce him. Now no one invites me to family dinners. My aunts won't return my calls. My uncle told people I'm sick in the head. And Mehdi, the brother who used to say I was the only person he'd trust with his life, hasn't spoken a word to me since. They all believe her, and I'm left alone, carrying a stain I can't wash off, because how do you prove you didn't cross a line you never even thought about? For the first 3 weeks, I barely moved from bed. I wasn't eating. I slept in my clothes, if I slept at all. I didn't go to work. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling like I was floating outside of my own life, watching it all fall apart from above. My mother's last words rang in my ears constantly. "You want your father to have a heart attack? You want people at the mosque to whisper about your name?" And Mehdi? Nothing. No call. No text. That silence was the worst part. Not the hate. Not the judgment, the complete, deliberate absence of the one person I thought would never abandon me. I blocked everyone. Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. Even cousins who hadn't said anything, just in case. I didn't want pity. I didn't want questions. I was too ashamed to defend myself, too numb to try. Because deep down, I felt responsible. Not for doing something wrong, but for not leaving that night. For saying yes to the movie. For ignoring the pause in his stare. For pretending that nothing about it felt off. I thought ignoring it would protect us. I thought silence would preserve what we had. Instead, it gave Soraya all the space she needed to rewrite the story. It was my friend Clara who finally pulled me out of the apartment. She forced me to go to a party one of her friends was hosting. I didn't want to. I hadn't worn makeup in weeks. My jeans barely buttoned. I looked like a ghost in a hoodie. But she said, if you let her erase you, she wins twice. So I went. Just for an hour. Just to be around people who didn't know my name. We were standing near the kitchen when I heard someone behind me say, Inez? I turned around. And there he was. Mehdi. I froze. He looked thinner, tired. Dark circles under his eyes. I thought for a second he might turn around and leave. But he didn't. He walked toward me. And quietly asked, can we talk? We stepped into the hallway. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear. And then he said the most gutting sentence of my life, you should apologize to Soraya. I laughed. I didn't mean to, but it burst out of me, sharp and bitter. Apologize? For what, exactly? For letting you come pick me up when my car broke down? For watching a movie with my brother? He wouldn't look me in the eye. She's hurt, she thinks you crossed a line. If you just said you're sorry, even if you didn't mean to, it would calm things down. I stared at him. You want me to lie? To make her feel better. So you don't have to choose. He stayed quiet for a second, then muttered, I can't pick between my wife and my sister. I stepped back. My voice cracked. You already did. Then I left. Clara followed me outside. I collapsed into her arms and cried for the first time since this all started. Not just because of what he said, but because it confirmed everything I feared. Mehdi wasn't confused, he wasn't caught in the middle. He was choosing silence. He was choosing comfort. And Soraya? She wasn't finished. Because a week later, I got called into HR at my office. They said an anonymous complaint had been submitted against me, claiming I had boundary issues with male coworkers and made inappropriate advances towards someone I referred to as a close male figure. They couldn't prove it. There was no name attached. But I knew. I knew. She was trying to ruin my life outside the family now. And no one, not even my brother, was stopping her. The HR meeting didn't last long, but it left a scar. They were obligated to follow up. That's how they phrased it. They assured me that nothing in my record was concerning, that there was no official warning being issued, just a confidential reminder to maintain professional boundaries. I sat there nodding, heart pounding, face burning. I walked back to my desk feeling radioactive. Like every glance was loaded. Like everyone knew. Even though they didn't. Even though it wasn't real. But shame doesn't need facts. It just needs a whisper. That night, I drank a glass of wine alone and stared at my phone for 2 hours, debating whether to call Mehdi. Not to scream. Not to accuse. Just to ask him one question, why are you letting her do this to me? But I didn't call. Because I already knew what he'd say. Or worse, what he wouldn't say. A few days later, Clara and I sat at her place, eating pasta on the floor. I told her everything. The HR warning. The weight on my chest. The way my own body felt like a crime scene. And Clara, who rarely lost her cool, stood up and said, I think she's obsessed with you. I blinked. What? She doesn't want your brother. She wants to erase you. To make sure she's the only woman in his world. And the only way to do that is to turn you into the threat. I didn't want to believe it. It sounded paranoid. Dramatic. But then Clara showed me something on her phone. She had looked up Soraya's old social media accounts, back when she was still using her maiden name. A blog from years ago. In one of the posts, she described her ideal relationship as being with a man completely disconnected from his past. No emotional baggage. No exes. No sisters clinging like shadows. Sisters. The word felt like a knife. I couldn't prove any of this. But the more I thought about it, the more things made sense. How Soraya always pulled Mehdi away during family events. How she once joked about in-laws being toxic while looking directly at me. How, during their wedding, I caught her staring as Mehdi and I laughed about an old inside joke, and her face was pure ice. She never wanted to share him. Not even with me. And now she was making sure she didn't have to. A week later, it got worse. I received a letter at home. No return address. Just my name written in handwriting I didn't recognize at first. Inside were 2 printed screenshots. One from that night at their place. You awake? Yeah. Wanna watch something? And one from years ago, totally unrelated, where I had once messaged Mehdi, you're honestly the only man I can fully trust. That second message was after my breakup. After I caught my ex cheating. It was a brother-sister moment. But printed out like that? Cropped? It looked bad. Underneath, someone had written in all caps, who talks to their brother like this? No signature. No explanation, just psychological warfare. I dropped the envelope and started shaking. Clara grabbed it, called Julian, her partner, and told him to install a security cam outside my door. I filed a police report the next day. They couldn't do much. No direct threat, they said. Just weird mail. But it was more than that. It was a message. She wanted me scared. She wanted me silent. And most of all, she wanted me gone. So I made a decision. I booked a train ticket. Left Paris for a week. Went to stay with a friend in Marseille. No social media. No phone calls, just sun, sea, and the hope that distance might dilute the poison. And for a while, it did. Until my phone buzzed one night. A text from an unknown number. Just one sentence. You can run, but you'll always be the girl who wanted her own brother. That's when I realized, this wasn't going to fade. She wasn't done. And neither was I. After that message, something inside me broke. Not in a dramatic way. Not with screaming or tears. It was quieter than that. Like a switch flipping. I sat on the edge of my friend's bed in Marseille, staring at the screen with the anonymous text still open. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. I was just cold. Because suddenly, it hit me. I wasn't just a victim in someone's sick story. I was the villain in a narrative Soraya had carefully built, piece by piece, and everyone in my family had bought it without question. I didn't matter anymore. The truth didn't matter, only the version of the story that made her look like the betrayed wife. The text proved one thing above all, she wanted me gone. Not ignored. Not humiliated. Erased. So when I came back to Paris, I stopped playing defense. I started gathering everything. Screenshots. Messages. Timelines. The call log from the night Mehdi came to pick me up. The GPS record from the tow truck company proving the exact time my car broke down. I wasn't doing this for revenge. I just needed to have it. Proof. Truth. Something that felt solid in a world where even my own parents looked at me like I was dirty. Then I made one more move. I sent Mehdi a message. Just one. I need to see you. In public. Alone. 1 hour. After that, I'll disappear from your life if that's what you want. But I need to say this face to face. He replied 3 days later. Okay. Wednesday. 6 p.m. Jardin du Luxembourg. When I got there, he was already sitting on a bench, sunglasses on, phone in hand, like a man waiting for a dentist appointment. I sat next to him. He didn't look at me. I said, I didn't do anything. You know it. So why are you letting this happen? He said nothing. I pulled the folded screenshots from my bag, the ones Soraya had sent me anonymously, and handed them to him. He looked at them. Read the text. Blinked once. Then whispered, she told me you sent those to hurt her. That you wanted to remind her of what she'll never have with me. I laughed. Not because it was funny. But because it was so twisted I didn't know how else to react. Seriously? You think I'm in love with you now? He finally turned toward me. I don't know what to think anymore. That hurt more than anything, because if you can't tell when your own sister is telling the truth, what's left? I told him everything. The anonymous letter. The HR warning. The fake accusations. The text in Marseille. And he just sat there. Silent. Like if he stayed still long enough, this would all wash over him and disappear. When I was done, I said, I'm not here to ask for your support. I'm here to ask for your decency. If you can't defend me, fine. But don't let her destroy me. He nodded slowly. Then he said, I'll talk to her. But you need to understand, she's not well. She's not stable, and I'm scared of what she might do. I stood up. Then maybe you shouldn't be married to her. He didn't respond. I walked away. And I didn't look back. The next day, I got a call. From Soraya. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Her voice was calm, eerily calm. You should have stayed quiet, Inez. Now I have no reason to play nice. 2 days later, someone emailed my manager screenshots of fake DMs, doctored ones this time, making it look like I was messaging male coworkers sexually. They used an old picture of me in a bikini from years ago, cropped to look like it was sent as a selfie. HR launched a formal investigation. I was suspended for 10 working days while they sorted it out. I knew it was her. I knew it. And the worst part? I couldn't prove it. I was watching my life get shredded piece by piece, family, career, reputation, by a woman I used to bake birthday cakes for. And my brother? He still hadn't said a word. I spent those 10 suspension days holed up in my apartment like a fugitive. Curtains drawn. Phone on silent. Laptop shut. I barely ate. I barely spoke. I kept checking my inbox, waiting for the next attack. A leak. A fake nude. Another anonymous complaint. Anything. She was capable of it, and I knew it now without a doubt. But nothing came. Not right away. Instead, someone else knocked on my door. Clara. Of course. She brought groceries, forced me to shower, and made me eat a warm meal for the first time in 4 days. Then, after making sure I wasn't totally falling apart, she said, we're going to fix this. I didn't believe her. Not at first. Because how do you fix a story where you're already the villain? But Clara's partner Julian had a different perspective. He was a freelance IT guy with too much time and just enough anger for both of us. He asked me one question, do you think she's doing all of this from her phone? I shrugged. She's smart. Cautious. Maybe a burner number? He smiled. Smart people leave traces too. He asked for every email, every number, every scrap of weird contact I'd received. I gave him everything. And then I waited. 5 days later, he called Clara at midnight. She put him on speaker. I have something. It's not bulletproof. But it's enough. What he found blew my mind. One of the anonymous emails sent to my manager used an IP address tied to a co-working space in Paris, nothing unusual, Except Julian checked the access log of that building's guest Wi-Fi, public, with a basic login. On that same day, at the exact same time, someone had signed in using the name Sora_B. It wasn't ironclad proof. But it was something. A crack. Then came the second blow. Julian dug deeper and found an Instagram burner account that had viewed nearly every story I posted, always within seconds. The account followed 0 people. No posts. But he traced its profile photo metadata and found that it had once been associated, just for 2 days, with a phone linked to Soraya's brother. That was it. That was our thread. And I pulled it. I went straight to HR and laid everything out. I wasn't asking for them to act, not yet. Just to listen. I showed them the evidence, the connections, the harassment trail. They paused the investigation. 2 days later, they called me back. The complaint was dropped. Completely. No record. No consequence. I wasn't off the hook publicly, but I had my job back. I returned to work the next Monday. People stared, whispered. I smiled. I pretended it didn't burn. And then, like a cherry on this rotting cake, I got another message. This one came from a number I knew. Medi. It said, I talked to her. She denied everything. She said you're fabricating all of it. I don't know what to believe anymore. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because he didn't know what to believe? After everything? After years of me being the one who showed up, helped, stayed loyal? Then what the hell was left of us? A few hours later, I got a DM on my private art page. It was from a fake account again. No name. No followers. The message read, "You're good at playing the victim. But he still sleeps in my bed every night." No doubt. No hesitation. It was her. And I finally realized something brutal. Something I'd been avoiding. Soraya didn't just want to erase me. She wanted to own me, to crush my spirit so completely that I'd never dare come near her husband, or anyone again. This wasn't about Medi anymore. It was about power. Control. Humiliation. And she was only getting started. I started having nightmares. Every night the same feeling, being chased. Sometimes by Soraya, sometimes by shadows, sometimes by my own reflection. I'd wake up breathless, convinced someone was standing at the foot of my bed. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't living. Even walking into a grocery store gave me anxiety. I'd see a woman in a headscarf like Soraya's and feel my heart drop. She was haunting my life like a ghost that no one else believed in. So one night, I made a list. A real one. On paper, not of the things she'd done to me, because that list was endless by now, but of the things I refused to give her. My job. My peace. My voice. And I decided she wasn't going to win. The next day, I contacted a lawyer. A real one. Someone who specialized in digital harassment and defamation. She was firm but kind. She told me exactly what I already knew: it would be hard to prove. The evidence was circumstantial. The burner accounts, the anonymous emails, none of it was directly traceable to Soraya without a formal police investigation, which, without a direct threat, the authorities weren't eager to launch. But then she said something that shifted everything. Have you considered going public? I blinked. Like, posting about it? She nodded. Not with names. Not with accusations. Just your story. From your side. It might protect you more than you think. At first I thought it was insane, but that night, I lay awake, rereading every cruel message, every fake complaint, every silence from my own brother, and something in me clicked. If I stayed quiet, she controlled the story. If I spoke, really spoke, I took some of that control back. So I wrote. Not as a victim, but as a survivor of an invisible war. I didn't mention names. I didn't accuse anyone. I simply told the truth. About how someone close to me had turned my life into a nightmare. About the silent damage false narratives can cause. About what it feels like to be called a seductress in your own family when you've never even looked at your brother that way. I posted it on my personal blog. Then I shared it, privately, to a few close friends. Within 3 days, it had 20,000 reads. Within a week, over 100,000. People messaged me from all over the country. Women who had been accused of things they didn't do. Sisters who had been shut out of their families. People whose reputations had been torn down by jealousy, silence, or fear. I cried reading those messages. Not because I was sad, but because, for the first time in months, I didn't feel alone. Then something unexpected happened. My cousin Fadwa reached out. We hadn't spoken in nearly a year. She'd gone silent after Soraya's accusations spread through the family. Her message said, "I read your blog. I believe you. I think others do too. They're just scared to say it out loud." Then she sent another, also. "I have screenshots. Of Soraya. From last year. Saying weird stuff about you in a group chat." I called her immediately. What she sent me that night changed everything. In a private WhatsApp group with some of the younger women in our extended family, Soraya had once written, "Inez always acts so innocent. Wait till people find out who she really is." Another message, a few weeks later, read, "If Mehdi ever cheated, my money's on her. Too comfortable for my taste." And the worst one, "She plays the sister card but I've seen the way she touches him. People like her deserve a taste of their own medicine." The messages were old, but they were chilling. This wasn't spontaneous. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was planned. Bit by bit, she'd been planting the idea that I was dangerous, inappropriate, manipulative. And now I had proof. I sent everything to my lawyer. She said it wasn't a smoking gun, but it was a start. And suddenly, the power balance shifted. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was fighting back. The only question was, would my family ever be ready to hear the truth? Because some of them, especially my mother, were still treating me like a walking shame. And Mehdi? Still silent. Still hiding. But he was about to be forced to choose. Because the next move I made would drag everything into the light. I didn't want to blow things up. That wasn't the goal. But after Fatwa's screenshots, after months of being torn down, erased, slandered, I stopped caring about being the bigger person. My lawyer helped me draft a formal letter. It was clean, precise, and terrifyingly calm. We didn't name Soraya directly, but we didn't need to. We outlined the harassment timeline. We listed the anonymous messages, the fabricated HR complaints, the malicious impersonation online. We cited the defamatory group chat screenshots. We warned of legal action if it didn't stop immediately. Then I emailed it to Mehdi. Subject line, "This is not a threat. It's a boundary." He replied in under 10 minutes. "Can we meet? Please." We met 2 days later in a coffee shop near his work. He looked awful. Sunken eyes. Twitching fingers. The Mehdi I grew up with was gone. This version looked like a man who hadn't slept in months. He sat down and said, "Before anything else, I'm sorry. I didn't protect you. I didn't speak. I just stared." He swallowed hard. "I saw the messages. Fadwa sent them to me too. And I confronted Soraya." He paused, shook his head like he still didn't believe what he was about to say. "She didn't deny it. She said, she was just venting. That it was a joke. That you were too sensitive. But then she admitted the emails. The HR complaints. Even the Instagram account." My mouth went dry. "She admitted all of it?" He nodded. "She said she never meant to ruin your life. Just scare you. Make you keep your distance. She thought you were too close to me. She said it wasn't normal how we were." I laughed. A bitter, exhausted laugh. So instead of talking to you like an adult, she destroyed me? He stared at the table. She's not well. I mean that seriously. She's seeing someone now, a psychiatrist. But that doesn't fix what she did. No, I said quietly. It doesn't. Then I asked the question I had avoided for months, do you believe me now? He looked up at me with red eyes. I always did. I just didn't want to lose her. That sentence hit like a truck. You were okay losing me? I asked. His face crumpled. No. But I thought, maybe I could have both. If I stayed quiet. If I just waited it out. Silence. A long one. Then I asked, so what now? I've moved out, he said. I told her I need space. Maybe for good. I don't know yet. But I told our parents the truth. I'm not letting this continue. That surprised me. You told Mom and Dad? He nodded. Mom cried. Dad was angry, at first at me, then at her. They didn't apologize to you, I know. But give them time. Time? I said. Mehdi, they treated me like filth. Like I'd committed incest. I know, he said. And they're ashamed. But they're also proud. And terrified of looking wrong. That was their problem. Not mine. We parted quietly. He hugged me. I let him. But it didn't feel the same. Too much had broken. Too much had rotted. That evening, my father called. His voice was stiff. He asked how I was. I said fine. He said, your brother told us some things. We were misled. I hope you'll come for dinner sometime. I hung up without responding. Because what do you say to that? After being spat on for months, is one passive half apology enough? Then Soraya sent me one final message. A voice note. Her voice was calm. Controlled. I hope you're satisfied. You won. I lost. Mehdi's gone. You'll always be his sister, and I'll always be the crazy wife. But just remember, he only came back to you after I broke. I deleted it. Without even listening to the end. She wanted the last word. She wasn't going to get it. Because for the first time in a year, I finally understood something. I didn't need her, or anyone else, to believe me anymore. I believed myself. And that was enough. It's been 6 months. 6 months since that last message from Soraya. 6 months since Mehdi walked out of their apartment and tried to rebuild whatever was left of our relationship. A few weeks after our conversation at the cafe, he sent me a photo of the divorce papers. Nothing dramatic, just a snapshot of the first page. A quiet symbol that he was choosing to finally draw a line. I didn't celebrate. I didn't send him a thank you message. Because this wasn't a win. It was just the end of something that never should have begun. The family dynamic is still messy. My parents are trying, not apologizing, God forbid, but trying. My mother now sends me links to job opportunities with little comments like just in case or saw this and thought of you. My father sometimes calls to check in, usually under the pretext of asking about my car or my rent. They don't say the words. They probably never will. But I've stopped waiting for them. That part of me, that little sister who once thought being loyal was enough to be loved back, that version of Inez is gone. I've gone back to work fully now. My name is cleared. My manager has actually apologized privately for how it was handled. Clara still reminds me every week how strong I was, even when I didn't feel it. And Mehdi? We talk. But it's cautious now. Polite. He sends photos of our old family dog. He sometimes texts random memories like, remember when we flooded the kitchen in 2007? It's almost sweet. Almost. But there's a part of me that can't forget that when I was drowning, he watched from the shore. And even if he regrets it now, the silence left scars. As for Soraya, she's vanished from our lives. No one says her name out loud. My parents refer to her as that woman. Mehdi refuses to talk about her therapy or where she went. And honestly, I don't care. I built new boundaries around myself. Walls that aren't just for protection, but for clarity. I no longer feel guilty for being who I am. For having a close bond with my brother. For existing in a space she decided belonged to her alone. I didn't seduce him. I didn't flirt. I didn't cross any lines. I was a sister. And somehow, in her twisted world, that made me the enemy. Now, I'm rebuilding. Not out of vengeance, but out of survival. I've started painting again. Clara and I are planning a weekend trip. I'm even seeing someone new, slowly, quietly, on my own terms. But there are nights I still flinch when I get a message from an unknown number. Or feel a wave of nausea when someone mentions family drama. Because the trauma doesn't disappear just because the war is over. It lingers. And even now, I still don't know what I'll say the next time I walk into a family gathering and someone brings up Soraya's name. Or worse, pretends she never existed. I'm learning to live in that space. Not with forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But with truth. And sometimes, that has to be enough. I don't know if I'll ever truly trust Mehdi again. I want to. God, I want to. But something fragile between us broke, and no amount of whispered regrets will glue it back perfectly. So yeah. I'm healing. But I'm also changed. I don't know if I'll ever be the person I was before all this. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that version of me needed to disappear for this one to survive. I just hope, if any of you have ever gone through something even remotely like this, you know this, you're not crazy. You're not wrong for existing, and you are absolutely, completely allowed to cut off the people who would rather destroy you than admit they were wrong. Because in the end, survival isn't about being believed. It's about refusing to disappear.
Follow me for more stories.